What?
What's the matter? Why are you wearing that, Richard? Are you on duty today?
Well, I'm just trying it on, Jamie. I'm just trying my Space Precinct shirt.
Does it still fit?
It still fits. So I'm going to be taking it with me to Leicester, you see. I thought, well, I've got to make sure it's still, comfortable.
It looks, you look very dapper.
Yeah. Well, listen, it was either this or the skin-tight lycra onesie that I wore as Commander from the episode Predator and Prey.
You're keeping that for the Sunday, are you?
It might make an appearance on the Sunday. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, or maybe the Saturday night.
Yeah, hey, for the dance floor.
Let's see how we go.
Perfect.
Well, what an image to start this podcast on.
There you go. Officer Oren reporting for duty.
Gosh, yeah, this is my dream, Richard.
I can tell.
Yeah, I'm so happy. Anyway, let's save any further strangeness.
Weirdness.
For the rest of this podcast in the Gerry Anderson podcast, Pod 49.
It's the Gerry Anderson podcast!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Pod 49.
50 minus 1, as it's also known.
I remember when I was 49.
Really?
Yeah, it was only last year.
Of course. You're only Pod 50, aren't you? So.
Yeah. Anyway, here we are again. Listen, Pod 49 for the next hour and a half or so, talking all stuff Gerry Anderson, new productions, old productions, merch, news. You are?
Jamie Anderson, and you are?
Richard James. And we're going to be hearing from our Podsterons, of course, a little later on in the voice of the Podsterons. We've got the usual listeners' emails. Yes, I said that. We've got interview. We've got Chris Taylor, his amazing randomiser, of course, will be here.
Yes.
And some news from the Gerry Anderson universe.
And... and there's two things you've missed.
Oh, right.
One's the interview, Richard.
I'm sure I mentioned the interview, but go on.
Well, I'm going to tell you more about the interview this week. It's an archive interview. I've raided the audio archives and found an interview from 1992.
Oh, well done.
With someone we don't normally hear from, and that's Peter Holmes. Peter was the prop master from Captain Scarlet on and off through to Terrahawks. And normally the prop master's a guy that sort of, as Peter says himself, I think, is a glorified storeman. But Peter actually made loads of stuff, and so lots of the things that you see in the background, and the foreground of some of your favourite Supermarionation shows and beyond, nicely upholstered armchairs, pianos, ashtrays, all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It may well have been Peter that made them, so he's going to tell you all about that. And it's a really different, a really interesting interview. So.
Nice. So from 1992, you say. I'm assuming you didn't do that interview yourself, Jamie.
I did not. No. I think these were undertaken by Marcus Hearn for biography stuff. So
great.
There you go.
Interesting. Yeah. So there we are. Well, I don't think we missed anything out there, did we?
That's
the whole rundown for the show.
That you always try to miss out, Richard.
Yeah.
We can come to in just a moment, because I can tell listeners' anticipation is building. The excitement is growing for.
Is it though?
For Fab Facts, yeah.
Oh, Fab Facts, how could I forget?
I don't know.
Anyway, so you can get in touch with us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We love to hear from you. And also get in touch with us on Twitter. You can tag him, I'm Jamie Anderson, or me, Richard N. James. Just hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, and we will see your tweets. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. And don't forget to leave us a nice rating and a nice review. And most importantly, share with your friends, because that way they get to listen too. They might just enjoy it.
It may well, possibly, unless they've got anything better to do. And also, I noticed, Richard, for the first time in a while, we had an interesting photograph this week from someone who's been listening to us in a very special place.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember?
I do.
Yes.
But I don't remember who it's from. Do you remember the name?
It was a picture of us seated on a throne, wasn't it?
It was, of sorts, yes. Yeah, we were accompanying somebody's bathroom cleaning chores, weren't we? This would be Pod 48, which also features, of course, the third part of your mum's fantastic interview. Lots of love for that series of interviews on Twitter. But yes, we do like to keep people company as they're getting on with their work. Have you got it there, Jamie?
I'm desperately looking for it. No, I can't currently find it. Isn't that terrible? Yes, I even had a message from Nick Briggs this week to say was really looking forward to listening to some of your mum's interview, but you and Richard don't half ramble on.
Oh, blimey.
I mean, he's right. But
he is right. Do you know, I'm often reminded of that. Do you remember one of the very first reviews we had? They said, yeah, it's all right. Once they settle down and they're not quite so frenetic. Well, here we are, 50 pods later.
Nothing's
changed.
Doing it. No, I cannot find the picture of us on the loo, sadly.
Oh, that's a shame. We're not actually on the loo.
No, but the podcast is.
Yes, yeah. But what we do ask is that people take pictures of their devices, wherever they are, or selfies when they're listening to the podcast, and let us know what they're up to and what they're doing. And I'm just having a quick search through here as well.
Why can't we find it, Richard?
That's really weird. Maybe they've taken it down.
No, I've got it. Pete Kirby.
Well, so Pete Kirby.
Pete Kirby tweeted us. Yeah. This week's podcast helping me get through my cleaning the bathroom chore. And yes, it was literally a picture of his iPhone on the loo.
Nice.
Not him though.
No, thankfully.
So thanks, Pete.
Lots more tweets a little later on. Well, for example, like this one. Phil Steer, for example, said, got in touch at hashtag Gerry Anderson podcast. I have a confession, Phil says. I like fab facts. Yes, we found him. Even if the fact is not particularly fab, it always leads to an enjoyable and interesting discussion. It may never rank top, but that doesn't mean it's not worth keeping. I like the fact that implies there's a discussion about whether we should keep it.
Praise indeed. For one of our top 5 features of the 5 available.
Look out, I saw him reach for it there. Go on.
It's now time, on that note of praise, for this week's Fab Facts.
Yeah. Oh, here they come. Just in time. Yeah, come on then, boys. Yeah, no, don't squabble at the back
Music
there.
is so catchy.
Isn't
I still find myself whistling it and humming it around the house. Very weird.
Now, we have had also on our Facebook listeners group, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons, a request, Jamie.
Have we?
That, so many people have been ordering their own copies of this Fab Facts book that they would like to play along. So when I shout Fab and you pick the fact, they're requesting that you give them the page number so they can find it too.
Okay. I'm happy to do that.
Let's do
we're going to go from the back again, Richard. So, and for those of you who are coming to Fab Facts for the very first time, I've got a book of Fab Facts. We flick through it. Richard shouts Fab. I pick a fact, probably, or maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of them, depending on how interesting or not they are, from the page we stop at, and then we discuss it. That's it. Easy.
That is literally it.
But sometimes it results in interesting discussion and debate, doesn't it, Richard?
Yeah, sometimes it does.
1 in 50 times. And let's hope this is the one. So here I am with my book of Fab Facts. Richard, are you ready to shout Fab?
Always ready.
Then here we go.
Fab!
Very good. So the spread here is page 80 and 81.
Right.
So this is nice because this is something that happens quite regularly. Actually, if you start looking through, you see this happening all the time. So here's your fact, Richard. In one episode of Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons, The Inquisition, Captain Blue is seen to fall from a window on board the airborne HQ cloud base. Visible for a split second is a large human hand giving the puppet a shove.
Oh, that's great.
Now, obviously, they had floor puppeteers, they called them, because most of the puppets were done from above, although by Scarlet there was quite a lot of under control.
Yeah.
But especially in the early days, floor puppeteers were the ones sort of holding the feet down or giving the puppets a little nudge. And there are quite a few instances throughout the series where you see the edge of a human hand visible. And I'm not talking about the shots where they cut to a puppet picking something up and there's a human hand. I mean, it's almost impossible to tell the difference. It's very well done.
Isn't it just?
It was probably right out of it. Anyway, so occasionally you'll see a human hand holding on to something or a finger holding something back. And so that's one of the many occasions when that happened. I say many, that's probably not fair. I guess there may be 6-8 times across the series. That's not bad. Yeah. But, you know, they weren't doing frame-by-frame analysis, and they're so easy to miss. No wonder it happened occasionally.
Okay. So you think that? Do you think it just went through without anyone spotting it, or do you think they may have spotted it and just thought, well, there's nothing we can do?
I don't know. Probably be 50-50 of those, I guess. I'm sure occasionally the editors would see it and just think, oh no.
Yes.
Oh well.
Well, yeah. Can't remount it.
Yeah, exactly. It's done now with,
Yeah.
That set's been destroyed or been repurposed,
That's right.
or that puppet's been burnt or blown up or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Captain Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nice. I always think it's rather sweet. There's Christine Glanville, of course, went way back with your dad, was there in the very early days, and operated the animatronic eyes for Captain Poddy in Space Precinct. And rather fittingly, not just a hand, but the whole of Christine Glanville is seen, I think, in the first episode, double duty, lounging against the door as Brogan and who's he? Rob Youngblood. Who did he play? Haldane. I think they walk across shot, and there she is at the back.
I did not know that.
Oh, you must look out for it, Jamie. It's actually really lovely, really sweet.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean, we've got to forgive these things, haven't we?
Of
Of
course.
they're going to happen, aren't they? Film sets and TV sets are such busy places. Rather like the Starbucks mug that was left on a recent episode of Game of Thrones. This stuff is going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you've spotted one of these sort of bloopers of a human hand left in, or a human person left in, in a shot of any Gerry Anderson show, then do take a screenshot and send it to us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We might share it on Fab Live, we might do a little montage of them. It'll be really interesting to see which ones you've spotted, and you never know, you might be the first person to spot one of these things ever.
Yes.
Because occasionally, something that's decades old, somebody goes, oh, hang on, we never noticed that before.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Let us know what you found.
Great.
Anyway, and that brings us very neatly to the end of this week's
Hand Fact.
Magic.
Hey, great.
Don't know how we do it every week, Richard, but
I know. We're in some sort of weird, spooky
telepathy thing going on.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Now, listen, you have been getting in touch on Twitter, which is always nice, of course. Brandon Gant got in touch and hashtagged us Gerry Anderson Podcast, saying it was lovely to hear Mrs. A recount those days of Space Precinct, Lavender Castle, and new Captain Scarlet. One just wishes that they had a bit more longevity. However, I'm happy that more Anderson entertainment is on its way. Absolutely, Brandon, because as we know, brand new Gerry Anderson stuff is being made right now.
Creepy.
So yes, Brandon, absolutely. This is about, of course, the third part of the series of interviews with your mum, Jamie, which have gone down an absolute storm. Pingu got in touch to say, it's not often I do a Gerry Anderson podcast fab fact, but here goes. Did you know that Jamie Anderson was both a lighting rigger and one of the puppet painters on Lavender Castle? Though for some reason, he isn't credited on the end credits. Jamie?
Well, I definitely wasn't a lighting rigger.
Right.
That is absolutely for sure. I did spend a few weeks up there painting a few characters and various other bits and pieces. I don't actually know if anything I painted ended up on screen or not, though. So
no. So you don't deserve a credit.
Oh no, absolutely. And also, it's very much up to the producer's discretion who gets a credit on these things. And you may see, hundreds of credits for a show like Game of Thrones or something like that, where it's I bet you there are at least another 20% or more of those people who don't get credit. Just because there's not space, there's not time, and some people who make a huge contribution, others who make a tiny one. It's up to the producer to decide who gets that credit. So, not saying that I deserved one, but
no,
I definitely
far
didn't.
from it. I once did a very small part in a film with Kirsten Dunst. Okay, I only had one scene. It was rather fun, but shot it in Prague, and I'd signed the contract, and everything, did the day's work, and then I got a call from my agent, and when I got home, saying, there's been a bit of a mistake with your contract. And I thought, oh God, what? And he said, well, unfortunately, they've had you sign one that guarantees you front title billing for your one scene with Kirsten Dunst. And who else is in it? I think Julie Walters was in it, Nathaniel Parker, some big
nice
names. So I had to sign another contract saying I'd be quite happy for my name to appear at the end. But for a moment, I thought that'd be great.
That'd be amazing.
And Richard James in a completely insignificant role. Not for the last time.
Could you not have refused to sign it?
I suppose I could have done, but
But then they could have said, right, we're cutting that scene and replacing it you entirely.
Quite right too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
probably for the best.
Could have done. Yeah. Now, Phil Steer sent a rather lovely thing on Twitter and also posted it on our Facebook group. Now, what I love about this podcast, Jamie, one of the many things, is that we talk about Stanley Unwin quite a bit, don't we, in the Secret Service?
We do.
I think that's really sweet because it's very often considered one of Jerry's sort of forgotten shows.
Yeah. And
now, Phil Steer,
and it's the 50th anniversary this year, obviously. So
There we go. So Phil posted a picture of Stanley Unwin's gravestone.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know about this. Have you seen this before, Jamie?
I think I had. It certainly felt familiar,
yeah.
but it's very sweet.
Yeah. Well, it's rather lovely. It's a picture of his gravestone, and the inscription reads, "In loving memory of Stanley Unwin, engineer and entertainer in radio, television and films, 7/6/1911 to 12/1/2002, and his dear wife Frances Anne, 23/9/1916 to 2/11/1919, reunite in the heavenly abode. Deep joy."
Aww.
It's so lovely. Isn't that sweet? And I did a bit more digging around, actually. I wanted to make sure it wasn't sort of Photoshop, because we can't always believe everything we hear or see on the internet, can we, Jamie? And Stanley's buried at Long Buckby with Frances, his wife. It says a Thanksgiving service was held at St Lawrence's Church in Long Buckby. The valediction had been prepared by Unwin's family in his own style. Goodly byload, loyal peeploaders, now all gathering most to amuse it and have a tilty elbow or a nice cuffle of TD. Oh, yes. And there's a world music collective called Sons of Arca who released a tribute album to Unwin entitled Tributey, following his death. Featuring a selection of his works with the band over the years. And also, his Unwin's work is considered to have been a significant influence on the 2 books written by John Lennon in his own right and a Spaniard in the works. Isn't that amazing?
Goodness me.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Amazing what you can find out. So there, just thought I'd tip my hat to Stanley Unwin again.
Nice work. And although, that's an additional fab fact, I would say, or set of fab facts.
Well, I suppose it is. Yes, true enough. There you go. Oh.
Now, Richard.
Yes.
From the old to the news.
Oh, very good.
I've used that one before, but should we do it anyway? Okay, it's time for
Newsy News.
Also known as the Gerry Anderson News, yeah. Now, Richard, the most important bit of news today is that at any point this podcast could be interrupted because I've got a man with a van coming to collect my old oven. So, just so you know, if I suddenly have to disappear, that's why.
Okay, it's not a very large green van with a number 2 on the side, is it?
If it is, I shall be thrilled.
Oh,
or
absolutely.
a big van where the sides suddenly collapse to reveal an SPV. That would be even better.
Oh,
no,
yes.
it'll just be a white van. Anyway, Richard. Since we are rapidly approaching the 50th pod and also our anniversary, can you remind listeners what is happening for those 2 events?
Yes, absolutely. Well, our 50th pod will be next week, won't it? We are being joined by our special guest for the show, Terry Adlam, who will be bringing his own wit and puns, no doubt, to the show.
Yes.
As he always does, in his inimitable style. We've also been asking people to send in some questions for our 50th. Questions for you, me and Terry. We've got a few. We've got a dozen or so, so that's pretty good. But if you want, you've probably got another few days after you hear this one, before we record Pod 50. If you want to send in your 50th podcast questions for me, Jamie, or Terry Adlam, just send them into podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk or hashtag them 50 questions, hashtag 50 questions podcast, hashtag Gerry Anderson podcast, hashtag
whatever you like.
We'll see them there. Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, well, the big news is we're going to be at the Fab Worlds of Anderson at the Space Centre in Leicester on the 15th and 16th of June. That's Saturday and Sunday for 2 days. Me, Jamie, and Chris Dale will be representing the Chris Dale podcast, I was about to call it. Well, it is, really, isn't it?
Yeah, he's the favourite, isn't he?
And the great thing is, on the Saturday, we're going to be recording our podcast live on stage in front of an audience. And then on the Sunday, Wi-Fi permitting, we'll also be broadcasting the next edition of Fab Live. So that'll be Sunday, June the 16th, Fab Live. At some point in the afternoon, the itinerary isn't up yet, but at some point in the afternoon, we'll be doing that. And we'll let you know as soon as we know the timings. And we would love it if we saw as many of you as possible in Leicester. It's pretty much central in the middle of the country, so not too far, hopefully. And we do know lots of people are coming from very far away to see us.
Yes, we have Antipodean visitors and others.
Yeah, that's right. And fellow Podsterons, you might be interested to know, are organising a bit of a meet-up. So if you want to join our listeners' Facebook group, all you have to do is answer 3 questions. Once you've answered those, I shall personally let you in, and you can then join the podcast meet-up group within the group and talk to fellow Podsterons about what time you're arriving and where you're going to meet and what you're going to do and all that sort of stuff. And of course, we'll see you throughout the day as well.
And I'm very much looking forward to it. And also I'm slightly concerned about it, technically speaking, and in other ways. And also, if we record it on the Saturday, I've then basically got to edit it and upload it by the end of Sunday, really. So that's going to be really fun.
I
and
know.
interesting.
Well, we'll have to try and keep it as clean as possible so that you have very little cut out, I suppose.
Yeah, it'll be absolutely fine. I'm
course it will.
very much looking forward to the whole thing.
Yes.
So yes, I hope you'll join us there, Podsterons, and if you can't, then at least you'll be there in spirit or via Twitter or elsewhere. I mean, there'll be lots of ways to get involved, and if you can't be there, perhaps you could send us your comments and questions with the hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast Live.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, we love a hashtag on here.
Oh, we love
Too
them.
many. Anyway, Richard,
Hashtag we love them.
that's
another
hashtag
one.
we love hashtags. That is the end of that little bit of anniversary and 50th news. The rest of the news is entirely merch based.
Oh, get in! Bit of merch.
Yeah. So merch to be and merch
Or
that is.
not. Oh, sorry.
No, it's all to be or is already
Good.
being. So that's great.
Nice.
Now, Richard, did you see the Lego Ideas Thunderbird 2 thing that has been doing the rounds? It was on
Cool.
the Gizmodo website and
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Did I?
You have seen it. And so Lego Ideas is a sort of crowdsourced website where Lego creators in the public can put up their ideas, put them up for kind of voting, essentially. And if that idea gets 10,000 people supporting it, then Lego, the proper, the company, the actual Lego people,
Yeah, we get it, yeah.
the people at Lego,
The people who make Lego, yeah.
they'll consider it to become a real product.
Oh.
And this Thunderbird 2 one, which has recently had a classic Thunderbird 2 variant added in, which seems to have brought the numbers up, is rapidly approaching, I think, 9,000 at time of recording, so only 1,000 to go.
Okay.
So it's well within the realms of possibility that this could reach the 10,000 person threshold to then go into the machine to hopefully get a license from ITV and become a real thing.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
I don't think
wonderful.
there's ever been any actual Gerry Anderson Lego, which seems terribly sad.
I mean, with Christmas coming up, 6 months away, they've got time, haven't they?
They might do. I don't know what the turnaround is on a Lego product, but
Yeah.
there you go. So if you want to find out more and if you want to vote, then just go to the Gerry Anderson website, gerryanderson.co.uk, and on there you will see on the front page a nice picture of Thunderbird 2 made out of Lego. Click on that, click the link inside, and sign up. It's a slightly laborious process to sign up, I have to be honest.
Right. Yeah.
It'll take you 2 or 3 minutes, but
Okay.
you might be one of the people that makes this thing happen, and it would be brilliant.
Yes.
I would love a Thunderbird 2 Lego set. So
Oh, who wouldn't? Yeah.
so let's
that's
hope
great.
that happens. Go and vote, and share.
Yeah.
Podsterons and everyone else.
Yeah.
The Big Chief Parker figure, Richard. Do you remember we were talking about the launch pad, which went live a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, and I think we display a little preview at our last Fab Live. We had a Parker model there,
Absolutely, and that
looked
model
lovely.
will also be at the Fab Worlds of Anderson, I believe, at Big Chief's
great.
table there. Well,
Yep.
Launchpad has been successful, and the Big Chief Parker figure is officially go.
Yes.
Now, I believe that the pre-order has now closed as of the time of release. So, unfortunately, if you didn't join the Launchpad, you won't be able to get the special bits and pieces that came with it, the special Parker, Pulling the Strings book and the signed print. However, the fact that it is successful means that they are rapidly approaching potentially selling out all of the Parkers before they're even released. So if you do want to grab one, go and pre-order it now. Or, forever hold your peace, or whatever the thing
Right.
is. Is that the right phrase? Yeah.
Well, that'll do.
It's a phrase. So anyway, I'm very pleased about that because it's a lovely looking figure, and it'll be a great addition to people's collections. So well done, everybody who supported the Launchpad.
Yes, the power of people.
If you are not a fan of higher end collectible figures, but you do want to, do your bit and show your support for Thunderbirds, and also perhaps if you're concerned about plastic bottles and all that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
then a Thunderbird 1 and other Thunderbirds water bottles are go.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's just Half Moon Bay who are making a lot of really nice Thunderbirds merch at the minute. They just released these.
Yeah.
They look fantastic. And I'm going to get one.
Well, I mean, absolutely. So I'm seeing them. I haven't got them here, but I'm imagining it's going to be the colours of the craft and the numbers.
Thunderbird 1 is
and,
blue with Thunderbird 1 on it and a red lid. So
Oh, right. Okay.
yeah, they're
Great.
very nice.
Yeah.
In fact, we might even have our own for Fab Worlds of Anderson for the podcast live, because we'll want to wet our whistles, won't we?
You're quite right.
There you go.
There's a phrase. Yeah, great.
So stand by for whistle wetting.
Yes, we could dip them in.
Thunderbirds water bottle. Thanks, Richard. And finally, Richard, you'll be pleased to know so that you don't always have to wear your Space Precinct shirt everywhere.
Yeah.
We've got some new Space Precinct merch.
Right, what's going on here then?
Well, there's an 88th Precinct mug, kind of like an in-universe mug design. And also kind of what we'd assume would be the 88th Precinct leisure wear. So it's got DCPD, the kind of eagle emblem, and 88 on the T-shirt.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when the series was being made, they had stuff like that the crew wore, and also I think was worn by possibly some of the cast in some scenarios. So there's
I think you're right.
Blue and a grey and a white version, I think, of that T-shirt, which is pretty cool.
Great.
But the mug is a cool design, and it's taken from kind of inside the Space Precinct universe. So there you go, Space Precinct fans. They could be ones for you.
Now, what about some things like phone cases? Have you looked into that? I suppose that's rather difficult, isn't it?
I'm sure you asked me this in Pod 12, Richard.
Oh, did I?
And
you see, I'm nothing. If
I
not
don't know if
repetitive.
it's Pod 12, but we definitely discussed it. It's just a bit of a pain, really, because there's so many different makes, and you think, right, we're going to get the iPhone 10 case out, and then they bring out the 10 Plus or the 10R or the 11 or the 50, whatever.
That's right. That's right.
But never say never. Never say never.
Sure.
We're always looking into new, interesting things to do.
Of course. Yeah.
They go. Oh, and also
great.
finally, just for you, Podsterons, hopefully by the time this is out or shortly afterwards, you'll be able to order a "This is the Voice of the Podsterons" T-shirt.
Well done.
Which you'll be able to get in time to have before the podcast live recording in Leicester. So if you'd like to wear it along there, let us know. And I'm going to post a discount code on that to that T-shirt to the Facebook group, so that if you order it before the live event, then you can get a discount on it too.
Great.
And that kind of last moment thing brings us to the end of this week's Gerry Anderson news.
That was the news. That was the news.
I'm sure that was in the right key, actually, Richard.
I think
you really
it was.
pushed it there. And
I did push it. I think I might have hurt something, to be honest.
Was that? Yeah, I was going to say, Podsterons, what you couldn't see there was to do that, Richard tipped his head back and threw his arms in the air. It's quite flamboyant, actually.
And burst a vein somewhere, probably.
I can't see that, thankfully. But yes, thank you, Richard, for that lovely thing you just did.
You're very, very welcome. We have some more tweets, of course. People are always getting in touch with us on Twitter. They can hashtag us, hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast. You can tag I'm Jamie Anderson or me, Richard N. James. Robert Monk, for example, a lovely afternoon working on props while listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Jamie Anderson and Richard James' usual nonsense, the fantastic last part of Mummy Anderson's interview, hashtag thanks Mummy A, and also the Randomiser all help to keep me going. Josh Long tweeted, wow, the Gerry Anderson Podcast, what a lovely and final part to hashtag Mummy A's interview. How lucky Gerry and Jamie are to have a wife and mum as kind as Mary with a wonderful voice. In an ideal world, I would love to have my life narrated by her.
She does have a lovely voice and a lovely accent.
Yes.
She speaks
Yes, she
very
does.
clearly.
Absolutely she does. And finally, James Pilson Wood says, another great podcast. Can't wait for June. Going to miss the hashtag Mummy A interviews. Really interesting getting a more in-depth perspective of Gerry's life. Actually, finally, the incompetent pilot. Every time someone says fact, I immediately hear that music from Fab Facts. Ah! And the problem is I'm starting to like it.
Well, I like it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Fact.
That's great. Yeah, so do keep them coming. You can tweet us and hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, and we'll try and read them out next time.
Thanks, Richard. And thanks all of you who've been tweeting us and stuff.
Yes. Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? What?
Dunno.
Oh, God. What? Someone left a window open or something?
This is the voice of the Podsterons.
That's so scary.
Acting dial up to 10 there again. I mean, we should literally be nominated for awards.
Of course we should. Yeah.
Section. Anyway,
maybe we should award ourselves an award at the Fab Worlds.
Okay, let's do it. So that voice, that bit of acting there means that it's time for listener emails, obviously.
Yes.
I couldn't even bring myself to carry on because you just stole the show.
I noticed. You
Well,
left me alone.
it also it froze. It must have been Podsteron interference. Made
Oh, it must have
FaceTime
been
freeze.
that.
So
Yes.
anyway, Richard, shall I begin
Oh, I think you should.
with the first Podsteron email of the week?
Yep.
Hi both.
Hi.
Interesting, short.
Yeah, clever.
I was watching Chris Dale's top 10 Gerry Anderson opening titles. On YouTube. It reminded me of one annoying thing from my childhood.
What, Chris Dale?
Yeah, they were at school together. Perhaps you have the knowledge to help me. It's unlikely, but we'll try. In the Thunderbird's original opening titles, and I think possibly in the new one, what is the reason for the order in which the characters are introduced? Please tell me there is one. There has to be. I wondered if it was a contractual requirement of each puppet that their agent had to negotiate. Bye! And that's
bye.
from Nigel Smith, the inflatable chocolate digestive boy.
Oh, yes, I remember Nigel.
Yeah, that's from very early on, and also on Fab Live. Nigel has a chocolate digestive inflatable which he puts in the swimming pool along with his Thunderbird 1, if I remember correctly.
That's right. Well, why wouldn't you?
So thanks, Nigel. Yes, that image burned into my mind. Well, Nigel, when you say there has to be one, does there really?
Yeah.
For the same reason that in the original series the boys' sash colours do not match the colours of their craft, it's just because there's no coordination between departments. They weren't thinking that deeply about it. Somebody was cutting the titles together, thought, I'll do it this way, it looks good.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't thinking about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown and the matching of the boys or anything like that. I think they just thought it looks best this way, so let's do it that way. Now, I may be wrong there, and others may know differently, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case. So, sorry, it's just a case of, you know, they didn't really think it mattered, and they didn't think it would be upsetting Nigel Smith all these years later.
No, they certainly didn't think we'd be poring over this stuff 50 years later trying to read things into it, did
They were more thinking, let's make this a really cool, iconic opening title things, and that they absolutely achieved.
Yeah, they did right. That's right. Scott Sadler got in touch saying, hello again, guys. Hi, Scott. Tickets all booked for the Fab Worlds of Anderson. The event each year keeps on getting bigger and better. I don't know who's more excited, me or the kids. Now, that's interesting, Jamie. Of course, I've never been before. Have you been to the Fab Worlds before?
I think the last 2 times I've been unable to attend, so no.
Okay.
But they've done various Anderson-type events on and off. It's just only recently it's been called the Fab World of Anderson.
I see, yeah. He says, my son Toby is hoping to get a photo and a signature from you both, if that's okay. Yeah, I think
we can probably manage that.
Yeah. I have a quick question. Has it ever been asked or queried how the sound effect for Thunderbird 2 was found and made for the series? I've tried to guess in my mind the clever ideas for sounds used for main Anderson vehicles, such as the SPV, Thunderbird 1, etc. And it's always interesting listening to the archive clips of various sounds being recorded for Stingray in your interview with Dirt Mags. Thanks again, guys. See you in June. P.S. I hope production on Firestorm is going amazingly. Thunderbird 2 sound.
So, Scott, I think there are 3 sources for most of those 60s sounds. There's the sound library that we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
If you remember, the one that...
There's a very good coughing effect just there.
That's from the sound library.
Yeah.
Thank you. But they also used a lot of old aircraft sounds, and I think a lot of the stuff for Thunderbird 2 is a Vulcan bomber, possibly, something like that.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And I'm not sure if that's the sound effect you were talking about in particular, but the other one which I've heard stories of, and again, I'm happy to be corrected or receive additional information on this, on the Slough Trading Estate, at one point, believe it or not, there was a cable car that went from part of the estate to another. I don't know why it was there.
Wow.
Just that was a very 60s thing to do, though, is to put that kind of transport or that kind of sort of device in odd places.
Yeah.
And Thunderbird 2's legs raising to reveal the pod is allegedly the engine sound of the cable car. So that's where that particular sound came from. So they come from real life aircraft, from a sound effects library of the time, and from then just around the place recording strange sounds. And that probably will have been John and Jean who were recording that. So I hope that sort of answers your question. Scott, maybe just a bit.
That's good.
So,
nice.
There you go.
Yeah, great. A cable car at the Slough Trading Estate. I can't get my head around that.
Chances are I probably misunderstood that. It's not the case, but the cable car thing certainly makes sense if you've ever been near one of the kind of winding houses of a cable car.
Sure.
Anyway, Richard, look, I've got one more this week.
Oh, go on then.
This is from Paul Roach.
Mm-hmm.
Paul says, "Hello, Jamie and Richard." Trying to garner my favour, obviously.
Yes.
Successful. I'm a 33-year-old Gerry Anderson fan, as well as Doctor Who. Double points there.
Absolutely.
Who remembers watching the early 1990s repeats of Thunderbird, Stingray and Captain Scarlet, many an hours spent at the family dinner table watching the fast-paced and exciting stories. I had the Matchbox set of Thunderbird craft, which I got for one birthday. I remember being disappointed that there was no Thunderbird 5, surely the most important of the Thunderbirds. A lot of people say that.
Yeah, well,
yeah, Thunderbird
okay.
5 is always neglected in these cases, sadly.
Yeah.
Also, I had a Matchbox SPV and was forever losing the missiles that fired from the nose. Well, that's a decade-old story, that one,
Yes.
right from the days of Dinky. Alas, I don't have those anymore, but have recently found the delights of the Japanese Aoshima Thunderbirds model kits. So far, having built Thunderbird 1, its hangar is yet to follow. As to my query...
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering if you have had any input into the recent Thunderbirds Argo series. I must admit, I started to watch it, but it didn't grip me as much as the original, so I stopped watching. Fair enough. Keep up the good work with the podcast. Never a dull listen. You hasn't heard this one yet. It's thanks to the podcast that I discovered that Terrahawks isn't as bad as I was led to believe.
There, you see?
You see? I picked up the complete series on Blu-ray for £10 in network sale, and I wasn't disappointed.
Great.
Praise indeed. Many thanks to the entertaining podcast, Paul Roach, pronounced Roach.
That's
just
good.
confirming.
That's
No,
really
because he's got an E
good.
on the end of his Roach, you see.
He has.
So,
Could have been a Roche, perhaps.
yeah, Roach.
What? That's a wine, isn't it?
Oh, near enough, yeah. Anyway, Paul, thank you for that. Did we have any input into the new series? No, we did not. That's ITV's gig and nothing to do with us, and Dad didn't have any input either. But such is life. But the nice thing is that it keeps bringing people back to the old ones. There's lots of kids that are discovering all the classic Gerry Anderson series. It's a great window for that.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty marvellous. So, Paul, thank you very much for your email. I hope that answered your questions. And that is the end of this week's Voices of the
Listeners' emails.
Podsterons stuff, yeah.
That doesn't really work. We need an out for that, don't we? We've got to pod 49 and we've only just realised.
No, I can't think of it. I was trying to do a Captain Scarlet. Dum 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 dum. Like,
Oh, I see.
yeah,
Well, you've got a week, maybe for the next time.
yeah. I'll try.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the end.
Yeah. Yes, and you can, of course, get in touch with us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk with all your thoughts and comments and questions, and we'll do our best to read them out. Of course, we can't read every single one out. We do get loads, don't we, during the week? And we generally sort of pick 2, 3 or 4, depending on the length. But people have been busy on the Facebook page. The Podsterons have been busy. And Steve Rogers has been posting his top 10 Super Mario Nation heroic male characters.
Oh.
So I think it's time for the sound of the swinging cymbal. At number 10, it's Deputy Head of the World Intelligence Network, it's Joe 90's Sam Loover. Number 9, posing as Father Owen's gardener, you may know him better as the Secret Service's secret agent, the incredible shrinking man, Matthew Harding. Number 8, it's Thunderbirds Parker, chauffeur to the stars. And at number 7, it's pilot and commanding officer of Fireball XL5 and astronaut of the year, Steve Zodiac. At number 6, it's pilot of Thunderbird 4, Gordon Tracy. Number 5, straight in, it's the pilot of Stingray, Troy Tempest. Everyone's favourite eponymous indestructible Captain Scarlet is at number 4, and at number 3, voiced by the much-missed Chain Rimmer, it's Thunderbird Scott Tracy. Coming in at number 2, born Adam Svensson, you and I might know him better as Captain Scarlet's Captain Blue. And finally, holding the number 1 spot in his Thunderbird 2 grappling hook, it's Thunderbird's Virgil Tracy.
Wow.
Yay!
Flawless, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
doing
Jamie. Would you agree with that, do you think? Virgil at number 1?
Well, I'm a big Virgil fan, absolutely. I'm not sure about swapping Captain Blue and Captain Scarlet, although I suppose the reasoning for that is that Scarlet is indestructible, whereas Blue is not,
Yeah.
and he's risking his neck properly.
That's right.
Not
Exactly.
like that
Easy gig for
wuss
Captain Scarlet.
Scarlet. Yeah, he'll be
Exactly.
fine.
That's right. And a couple of other people commented underneath that. I think Josh had a go as well. So if you want to head on over to our Podsterons Facebook group, you can leave your top 10 Super Mario Nation heroic male characters. There's also some fake fab facts being posted there as well.
No.
Yes. Tom Hodden said Fireball rockets are now available in sizes between XS and XXXXL.
Oh.
Okay. Terry Adlam pitched in. The Dick Spanner animated model came in 3 different sizes, making him an adjustable spanner. Yeah. And Carl Scott added, Lieutenant Green is a descendant of the Reverend Green, who was infamously associated with the murder of Dr. Black in the 1920s. Nice little Cluedo reference.
Wow,
there.
yes, thank you for that.
Very good. So it's all going on our Facebook group. Do join in.
What an amazing collection of posts we get on that group. Thank you, everybody, for joining in.
I know. Oh, and finally, Jamie.
Yes?
Lee Benjamin says, it's Macon, not bacon.
Yes, now I saw that,
All right.
and if Lee would care to move towns, that would be really good, because then it would make the podcast correct, because I can't go back and edit that, whereas you can move, Lee, so if you wouldn't mind.
That's easily
but
done.
there is a bacon in Georgia, that's the thing, I didn't just bake it
plainly.
up, I went and looked it up, and there really is a bacon as well as a Macon, so...
That's right.
I mean, who knows what other...
Bacon.
Yeah, Dakin, Fakin, Cakin, Nakin. Anyway, yes, fine. Lee, I'm sorry for incorrectly naming the place where you live, but I still want to visit Bacon, Georgia. Now, Richard, that's quite enough of my previous errors.
You've got some more
I've just
coming,
spotted that I've made an error in the script coming up, so I'm just about to now correct that. It's time for this interview, Richard.
Oh, yes, go on.
So, we've had Mummy A for the last three, and Mummy A was involved in everything sort of post 1976. So it feels only right that we pop back a little bit further in time and get somebody who was involved with the earlier shows. Prop Master. It's actually kind of quite a cool title, I think. Don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. It's
although
great.
Generally a fairly unsexy job of sort of managing the props and making sure they're stored correctly and getting that right one to the right time. Peter Holmes actually did a lot more than that. And Peter is this week's archive interview guest. And it's going to be about 30, 40 minutes, something like that, of him telling us about all his work from Captain Scarlet right through to Terrahawks and a few bits and pieces in between. And I think it's a really different and a really interesting insight into how some of your favourite third scale and full scale props were made. And he was one of the people behind it. So should we go straight over to Peter Holmes?
Let's do that.
I worked at a studio in Bushey, Hertfordshire. It was, trying to think now, Rand Studios. And a fellow that worked there also was a fellow called Grenville Knott. Now, he left Ryan and he went to work for Gerry. He came back to see us on one occasion, and I called him aside and I said, Gren, if the opportunity occurs, I'd love to work for Gerry Anderson, because when I was at school, my hands, my arts, crafts and handicrafts were my top subjects, and I wanted to be able to, I realised the potential there, the sort of making stuff, more or less everything that could be made. And asked him if he could get me a job there. About 3 months later, he phoned me and said that Arthur Cripps, the prop master there, was dying. He's an older fellow, actually, and he was dying. And they needed somebody to take his place. I went along there for an interview with Ken Holt. I remember vividly, I was on £16 a week at Bushey Studios, and after a few words with Ken Holt, he said to me, there's only one problem, Peter. I said, what's that? He said, I'm afraid we can't pay you any more than £25 a week. Well, I thought that's half as much as I'm getting again, so I tried not to look surprised, and I said, all right then, I think I'll live on that. And I found myself there in charge of the props. Now, basically, the prop master's job there was just looking after the props as a glorified storeman. I was given a little office. I cleared the office out. I put a bench in there. I got a vice. I bought my tools from home. Being an HOD, I was allowed to order stuff through the stores, and I ordered various tools that I didn't have. And John Mayhew was the first person to give me a job. It was a chair for brains in the feature film Thunderbird 6. And I made this chair. Keith Wilson had seen it, asked me if I'd make the furniture for the Pink Room in Thunderbird 6. And I made the furniture for that. Then a bed for Lady Penelope in Thunderbird 6. By this time they realised that I was capable of making small furniture. At third lineal, by the way, so it's third width, breadth and height. By the time they were making Captain Scarlet at the time, it was on about Captain Scarlet 9 or 10. I started painting backings for them on Captain Scarlet and making props. Then they started getting ready for Joe 90. After a little while they realised that either I was going to go on making props or painting backings. There was a fellow that was capable of painting backings, Terry Cheney. So they said, look, Pete, what are you going to do? And I said, well, it looks like it's got to be props because Terry couldn't make props, but he could paint backings. So Terry went on as the scenic artist, painting backings, and I carried on making props. Now, when it came to the Joe 90, they started to get ready for that. And Keith Wilson came in to see me and said to me, Pete, how would you feel about making all the furniture for Joe 90's father's house? Now, unfortunately, there was quite a strong union, and the carpenters insisted that I couldn't make the actual woodwork. But what I did do, in fact, was Keith showed me the stuff that he wanted done, and I made working drawings from that. And I was the go-between between him and the carpenter's shop. But when it came to the upholstered furniture and things like table lamps, telephones, and the likes, I found myself doing them. In fact, in the back of your Joe 90 annual here, Joe 90's reclining on a chair that I made, for instance, and his father's sitting on a buffet that I made. What I used to do, in fact, was Keith would come in with a photo, either from a magazine or something, and say, Pete, can you make a chair like this? And I'd say yes. I'd make planned drawings of it. Then I would make the framework out of ply, usually 1/2-inch ply, and just work out basically how I was going to cover it, and then cover it from there. The padding was made with foam rubber. If you see any of the furniture now, you won't see a single now, because obviously if I'd have used even gimp pins, which are the smallest tacks you can get, they would have been far too big. So I made sure that I disguised any of the tacking, and I disguised that by sticking panels on, i.e. at the front of the chair. I'm all right with a sewing machine, so I could do all the machining and what have you. And that's basically what I found myself doing. I made all the stuff for Joe 90, Joe 90's house, or the house he lived in, his father's house, and I also made all the furniture and stuff for Secret Service. And then, of course, after that it finished, I was called back for Terrahawks, and on Terrahawks I made all the props and stuff for that, except for 1 or 2 pieces which I had to give over to Bill James to make, because unfortunately I went in for a hernia operation, and while I was in there Bill made 1 or 2 pieces of the wooden furniture. But apart from that, I made all the props and furnishings for Terrahawks. I made all the furniture for Gerry on this stuff here.
What's
this
that?
little chair. That was the where, you know, the girl that was a pop star, she used to play on the organ, and it's just a cave stair. That's all I can tell you. When I worked for Gerry, as I say, on Terrahawks, I came to an agreement that in the evenings I would spray the clouds in and prepare the groundwork and all that, and then throughout the day I would paint his backings. The reason I used to spray the skies and all that in the evenings is because the old spray guns go while they're shooting, you see. So I do the sky and all that in the evening, and then this I would paint in the day. And because on Terrahawks the pressure wasn't so great, I was able to paint his beckons and make his props. So this is the roller backing that used to go behind the car, and that's the various sections of that one. This is me painting this backing, in fact, which is that one there. That was Mars. That was supposed to be Mars. This one here is supposed to be the Arizona desert, the Valley of Monuments.
The xeroids.
They are the xeroids, yeah. And this is another moonscape. And basically what I did is painted that and then hooked it onto the backing, you see. That's me standing between the foreground and the background. I'm not sinking, by the way. There's more backings that I painted for Gerry. That is the roller backing on another occasion. These here are just various shots. That's when they were shooting on that moon one, in fact. And there's just various shots of sets they were working on. Secret Service. When I was on Secret Service, as I say, apart from the... I drew this wooden furniture up, but I wasn't allowed to make it. But I used to make all this stuff. And there's something I made about a dozen of.
My goodness.
Little telephone. That's fiberglass. But in fact, what I did was I'd make a rough plasticine one, and you make sure that you make it slightly oversized, just slightly oversized, so that by the time you've got it dead smooth, it's not getting too small. Make it slightly oversized, then take a rough mould of that, then get a solid fiberglass image out of that, and just rub it down and smooth it off and get it right. Then take a mould off that. Now also, while I was on that, I made this stuff here, you see. This is all from Terrahawks. All this from Secret Service. All this stuff here.
Busts and...
All these busts were all from Secret Service.
Is that an elk?
That elk, yeah. I'm afraid there's a bit of dust over there. Look at all this. That was Secret Service. That was Joe 90.
What is it? Is a road?
I'll tell you what that was. That was behind Sam Louver's desk. Here we are, look. See those two there? That's Secret Service. That's that one there.
Made of fiberglass.
And that one there. No, they're fine. What I do is, I used to make... I'll show you the photos, actually. Here we are. See, there's that chair that you've got in the thing. Now, that I built. These chairs I built. This chair I built. This little lamp. And things like the telephone and what have you. This is Goss China. You know the old Goss China? You can see the emblems on. You can buy that. All this tiny miniature stuff.
That's from that hallway Secret Service, it must be.
This is Secret Service, yeah, that's Secret Service. Now that clock, see that the part that you can see there now, that was bought like that, as almost like a sort of carriage clock. And then I had this bottom built on.
To make it into a full size.
To make it into a grandfather clock, you see.
So, how do you get to your detail? Do you study magazines or what?
No, in all fairness, that is down to Keith Wilson.
Right.
The designer would look in a magazine and he'd see what he wanted in the way of sort of the shape of that arch and what have you. And then he would go along to the various people. Now, he would come along to me with a picture of a, what do you call it, a settee like that.
Sort of visual.
That's right. And it'd just be literally a picture in the magazine.
Yeah.
He'd say, Pete, can you make a settee like that? I say, leave it to me.
Right.
And he'd go away and I would take a look at that and I would make, drawings from it. No, basically what he would do would be to build his setup. It would appear to me that that's what he did. And quite rightly too. Yeah. Because it most likely find that you get halfway through it and you think, hello, I've gone wrong here somewhere. Yeah. And we had a smashing rearrangement. Keith was a great guy to work with. He really was. He would gradually build his setup. He'd think, right, I'll have a chair there. And he'd come along, Pete, can you make a chair? Yeah, I'll make a chair there. Don't worry about that, And then I'd ask him what colour he wanted and so on. And we go like that. And gradually build a setup. Fortunately, there was a lot of foresight in it, actually. He had he would come along to me and, you know, as I say with a photo, I would do a drawing of, I'd look at that shape and think to myself, all right, then the best thing to do is to start with, you know, 1/2-inch plywood and just work out how I'm going to build, say, a upholstered chair up. Fortunately, I've got that sort of mind where I can look at a solid block and I can see the shape in it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't suppose there's any real training for it. It's just the fact that Keith and I had a sort of an understanding. This here is a tree, and that was a tree I made for, what was it now? UFO. That's it. I made all the trees, all the little miniature trees. I used to use this status. Put this, you can see I've got a lot there.
Yeah.
You just put this status in and spray it, and it looks like leaves from a distance. By the time you get it thickened up.
Why do you keep it all?
Well, there's some stuff that's useful.
Yeah.
Other stuff, you've got a peculiar sort of, I don't know, feeling for, I suppose. Now, this has got the Queen Anne legs cut off it.
Yeah.
But you can see that you can't see a nail in it or anything like that, because otherwise it'd give the game away, wouldn't it? As you can see, one of the things that I noticed was, you know, when a puppet sat in a seat, it was always perched up high. The reason being that a puppet's got no weight, and this foam rubber has got quite a bit of, you know, I mean, a puppet's not going to press that down. So what I used to do was cut the bottoms, cut the inside of the seat out. Now, if you took that out, in fact, you'd find that there's a very, very thin skin of rubber on top there, and when it was new, it was torn like that. But that thin skin would give under the weight of a puppet, so that when the puppet sat down, instead of the arms being here, they'd be there where they should be. And you notice it when puppets were in bed as well. Instead of laying on top of the sheets, covers rather, they were bedded down into the mattress. And I used to make the mattresses in such a way that it looked like a person was actually sitting in them. But I was quite proud of the fact that I made, you know, the way I made the chairs and stuff. I thought, you know, I felt quite proud of the finish that I got on them. Here, you can see the leathers that I used. That's not leather. Where are we? I'm looking for, in fact, for what we call Pittard's leather. This is it. Now, this is glove leather. We used to have this sent up from Yeovil. You feel that? I mean, that's what you call leather.
Wonderful.
And I used to cover the chairs and stuff in that. That's the mould for that fish, by the way.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah.
There's a fish in there, actually. There's a rubber fish in there. This is a mould for a hand. That there, do you remember the one about the alligators?
Exactly, alligators.
That's one of the alligators from it.
Nah, they use real ones.
No, that was the one that you didn't use for real.
But you didn't make that.
No, that's a real alligator.
No, it isn't.
It is.
Oh no.
That is a.
You are joking.
No, that is a skin of a real alligator. I know, it's horrible. Do you know the reason I find it horrible, Simon, don't you? I'm not afraid of alligators, I just think it's a diabolical thing that they should do it to them.
So what did they do? They got
Oh, they didn't kill that.
alligators.
Oh yeah, no, they used real ones.
Yeah, but
Did you know the story about them in the tank?
Many. The one with Derek.
Shot out of the
We got
tank
off the
because
lead.
all of a sudden there was slackness on the
Yeah, Bob Bell always used to complain about the smell of the alligators, and there's the RSPCA man who came to complain about the voltage that was being put into them, and he ended up working on the team with them. He got so interested in it.
Did you know about the one with Bob Bell and Grenville Knott?
No.
And Grenville Knott's up the tree.
Oh, and they got arrested.
No, yes.
Yeah, I've heard
and
that
I went round after them, and I knocked on the keeper's door and said, "Is it all right if I summon your unit?" But he said, "Oh, you've come to asking now, have you?" I said, "Well, I always would."
Yeah.
Why do you say that? He said, well, you didn't do it a while ago. He said, one of your fellows, he said, I caught up a tree, and the other one scarpered. And the one that scarpered was Bob Bell, and the one stuck up the tree was Grenville Knott.
That was in Burnham Beaches, wasn't it?
That's right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So that was used on Attack of the Alligators?
That was used on the Attack of the Alligators, yeah. I was there, I started on Captain Scarlet.
Yeah.
But the only thing I had anything to do with, as far as Thunderbirds was concerned, was Thunderbird 6.
So how come...
I nicked him. Don't worry. I mean, don't worry. You can quote it if you want, because the reason I say that is because in the end there was a free for all, and the attitude was certain people came into me and said to me, Pete, if there's stuff that you feel you would like because you've made it, please, take it. I mean, things like this. I can promise you that stuff like that landed up on the dumps. Oh, they did. They did. Stuff like that landed up on the dumps because people they took it home for their kiddies and it wasn't appreciated. Do you know the reason I took the bottom off that? It had little legs on it.
For something else?
And the reason I took it, yes, for something else. That's all.
That's beautiful, that really is.
That's a strange piece, actually. It's you see that on I'll show you a picture of that.
This tree from UFO. I mean, basically, it's made of.
And actually, that's why I was in Burnham Beaches. You see, the thing is, there's a bush called the juniper. Now, I say a bush called the juniper. It's a whole family. Like you get, families of various trees, but the juniper is a family of bushes. But there's a particular juniper that they have in Burnham Beaches. The reason I like using it is it's quite dense. If you was to try and get a tree that's got that much detail in it, in that much length, if you understand what I mean, you wouldn't get it from an apple tree or a privet or anything like that. Junipers give you a lot of detail within a certain amount of length. What I'd do is get a main stem that goes through that looks quite detailed, and then drill it and start pushing these other pieces into it, and then build them in and gradually blend them in with fiberglass. That's fiberglass. And make up an old oak tree.
And so that would have been used on the sets, on the model sets of the aircraft.
This has been made on the sort of sets where you see a car belting down the road, like that, and these are the trees by the side of the road with little, hedges. And you can use that tree like that on one occasion, then you turn it around like that, on the next occasion you wouldn't know, and you turn it around like that. And I made trees from about this size, which is 2 foot, maybe a bit shorter than that, 18 inches, up to about 6 foot high, so that you could cheat your perspective. You know when they come to checkpoints and you see the little hut and the little barrier that goes up, fences, general fences, any exterior stuff that you can think of in the way of buildings like huts, outhouses and all that sort of stuff.
Does it worry you that much of your work's been blown up or ended up in water, or you get used to it, I suppose?
After 41 years, I've got one conclusion: take your money and run. Now, there are those times, all joking aside, when, you see your work all explode and blow up and what have you. And as long as they've got the shot, that's what matters. I think the heartache is when they say, it's no good, Pete, we've got to do it again, and even then, you say, all right then, well, pay me the same wages, you'll get it again. Yeah.
You achieved one ambition because you said you wanted to work for Gerry at one stage.
Oh, crumbs not off.
But why? What made you think, I want to work for him?
When I was at school, in all my senior school, in fact, in all my school experience, at no point was I ever surpassed in arts, crafts or handicrafts. That's woodwork, metalwork, art and craft. At no point did anybody in my class ever get a better mark than I did. Now, I can remember sitting next to a fellow, Frank, who was a lovely artist, but he was no good at woodwork. But on those 3 subjects, I was always top of the class or shared that top place with somebody else. When I came out of the army after doing my national service, I went back to Ealing Studios and I saw Jack Ricks, the production manager, and he said to me, "What are you going to do now you're back out of the army, Peter?" I said, "Well, I'll pick up where I left off." He said, "What, as a runner? In the production office?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "So what do you become, a 3rd assistant director, 2nd assistant director, 1st assistant director, director, production manager, associate producer? Is that what you want?" I said, "Well, that's where I am, isn't it?" He said, "That's not where you're best off." He said, "Why don't you do what you're best at?" I said, "What do you mean, Jack?" He said, "Why don't you do what you're best at?" He said, "You're not cut out for an office, Peter." He said, "I've seen you while you're waiting to take the call sheets round." He said, "You're sitting there making self-made comics." He said, "And cutting up things with knives and what have you, and making things." He said, "You're an artist." He said, "I can get you in the art department." I said, "I don't want to go in the art department." Now, a lot of people know the name of Norman Dorm. A blooming good art director. Blooming good art director. But Norman was in there sitting at a drawing board. And I didn't want to sit at a drawing board. And I explained this to Jack. I said, "I'm not a fella to sit at a drawing board. Though I'm very good at technical drawing, I don't like it." He said, "How would you like it if I got you with a scenic artist?" And all of a sudden, my ears pricked up. I thought, now he's talking. Free art. I said, "I like that, Jack." Well, bless his heart, he got me with a fellow called Simpson Robinson, who was an excellent artist. And I was with him for 18 months. And then, of course, the BBC bought Ealing Studios up. And I found myself out of work. And it was then that I went to television advertising, then on to Bushy Studios, and then on to Century 21. But not forgetting a lot of things that Robbie taught me. And as an artist, he taught me something that I've never forgotten, and I never, ever will forget. I took a painting in to show him one day, and he said, "Peter, you've painted the grass green." I said, "Well, grass is green, Robin." He said, "Peter, I'll give you one piece of good advice, and if it sinks into your head, it's all the advice you'll ever need as an artist." I said, "What's that, Robin?" He said, "Don't paint what you think you see, paint what you really see." And I never forgot that. And I've applied that to painting, sculpture, everything I've ever made. I thought to myself, what is the real object? What's its shape? What's its colour? What does it really look like? And I've applied that. And it's helped me no end. But apart from that, I'm a great believer in the fact that you don't create an artist. All you do is bring it out of him. And bless his heart, Robin helped to do that in my life. When I went to work for Gerry, I thought to myself, here I am. Jack had told me, "Look, Pete, go with the artist." And I'd seen a couple of Gerry Anderson's magazines, and in turning through the pages, I'd seen how they went about things at Century 21, and I thought, this is the niche I want to get into. This is why, when I found myself as prop master, I thought, I don't want to be a glorified prop storeman, and I threw the desk out and I put a workbench in. And I started making things because that's where I am. I just like standing at a bench or a easel, making or painting things, because that's creation, and I suppose that's what I'm about. I think Gerry was the catalyst that got a lot of talent together. Gerry had some extremely good formats. I think, I don't know, I think Gerry's too sophisticated to say he had the mind of a child, but he certainly knew what the children wanted. And he got the team together. Now, how he got it together, I don't know. I can only speak for myself. But there was a tremendous amount of talent. I think there was something around about 160 odd people working there at the time that I was working on Captain Scarlet. And there was a lot of talent, there was a tremendous enthusiasm and a really good spirit about that place. I've not seen anything like it since. There was a sense of fun, there was a sense of relaxation in that place, and yet the job was done. Nothing suffered because of the almost holiday atmosphere of that place. That's the only way I can explain it. There was a tremendous sort of, almost like being at Butlins every day, and you went in and you thoroughly enjoyed your day's work, and there was lots of fun and lots of things going on and lots of, I don't know, there was just something about the place. There's a spirit about the place. I'm not bullying. I really mean it. It was 3 very, very happy years for me, and I felt it radiating round me. It wasn't just me. I can remember one person whose name I won't even mention, who wasn't very happy there at all. But you know why he stood out? Because he was the only person that was unhappy, as far as I was concerned. Everybody else seemed to enjoy it. And yet, as I say, the job was done. The films were turned out. I don't think they were ever really behind schedule. I can't speak ultimately, but I don't think they were. And it's just a smashing atmosphere.
Did you see much of Gerry?
It's a strange thing, actually, but once again, I've got to be honest. I don't think Gerry knew exactly what every one of us done. On a couple of occasions since then, I've spoken to Gerry, and Gerry said to me, Peter, do you think you can manage this, or do you think you can do this? And I said, Gerry, that's what I was doing for you 5 years ago. But then again, I can understand the fact that obviously he couldn't scrutinise every part of everybody's job. Because he was doing his own thing. I mean, when I say his own thing, he was doing his own part of the project. He was, when I was working on Captain Scarlet, he was thinking Joe 90. And when I was working on Joe 90, he was thinking Secret Service. To a great extent, we found that we had to run along to somebody else. Because Gerry wasn't there. You know, as I say, he was getting tomorrow's work together. Yeah. I appreciate that. I appreciate that everybody's got their niche.
But was he quite approachable, sort of boss?
Very approachable. I mean, he's approachable now. Gerry's always quite serious, and you feel sometimes, sometimes Gerry's uptight, and you feel it. And there's some nerves there, and I feel that, but it doesn't matter. It takes all sorts.
Good sense of humour, though, beneath it all.
Yes, but not everybody sees it. Not everybody sees it. I think he's got to have a dry sense of humour in order to have achieved what he's achieved. I'll give you an example. There was a point where the Zooids were being bowled along an alley. They were going down a corridor, and they'd go through a bulkhead door. Now, you know, a bulkhead door sort of is one of these, almost like the sort of thing you get in a submarine. And they had to be bowled through it. Now, as the Zooids were going along, you used to just get them and sort of roll them like, you know, you was playing 10 pins or 9 pins and get them through the door. Now, one of them was aimed in such a way that instead of going through the door, it hit the side of the door, boom, and bounced off. It went through the hole, but it bounced off the corner of the door. And they said, right, that's an NG take. Do it again. And done it again.
No good.
No good. Gerry sat there and he's watched it, and he said, right, I'll have that take. They said, but it hit the side of the door. He said, oh, that's great. He said, what we do is we do, oh, like that.
Great.
As it's gone through, because they're all rushing through, and one of them bashes herself on the door, goes, oh, like that as it goes through. What a lovely shot. It made it. Right? Now, every now and then you see these things, and you see a mistake that you can turn to your own benefit. And sometimes Gerry's got that sort of humour that can see it. He says, no, I'll use it. If you were to say to me, What do I owe Gerry? I suppose, loosely speaking, everything from when I worked for Gerry. I would have been doing something else, but I wouldn't have had any of the contacts I've got now. None of them. Because that's the way life goes. I don't know whether you're a philosopher, but the way I look at life is, I've met you now. One day you could introduce me to somebody and they could say, just the bloke I've been looking for.
Yeah.
And boom, a whole new chapter of my life opens up. And it's in a completely different direction than I went before. And the day that Grenville Knott left Bushy Studios and went to work for Century 21, Grenville Knott didn't know it, but he was changing Peter Holmes's. He was completely changing my course.
What a lovely man, and a very different interview to, especially to Mum's, because although Mum was, she wasn't making the stuff that you get to see on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always fascinating to hear from people who make the stuff that we see, because the stuff we see on screen was made off screen by someone, and they very rarely get the credit. Really, it's all about the actors and the directors, isn't it?
Was
it's even my categories.
Yeah, it's the voice artist and the puppets in these shows tend to get the credit. And maybe, the kind of the heads of department doing the special effects and stuff like Derek Meddings but Peter, as he said, was a head of department in his own right. And so he was making these fantastic little bits and pieces that really bring the world to life. So there you go.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed that.
That's right.
Do let us know. # Gerry Anderson Podcast on Twitter or on the Facebook group.
Yes, indeed. Now, talking of the Facebook group, we've asked you to join in the fun, of course, over on Facebook, Podsterons Listeners Group. And there are 3 questions to answer. If you answer them, I shall let you in. Now, there are still people who don't understand that concept. A few people who've just answered one question and they're now being held in a sort of a holding pattern. I'm going to read them out. Malcolm Measures, Alan Cullinan, Mark Wolsey, Michael Pember, Orlando Norberto, John Sloan, Christopher Fly, and Kevin Dixon. You have applied to join the podcast listeners group, but you haven't answered all the questions yet, so I can't let you in. So go back and answer the next question, and then the next one, and then I'll think about it.
He's gone power mad.
I have. Now, for example, Paul Main has posted in the group. I don't know if you watch The Chase, Jamie. It's one of my favourite afternoon quiz shows.
I have seen it, yes.
Yeah, big fan of The Chase. Well, this week they asked, what is the name of the US Air Force equivalent of the UK's Red Arrows? Terrahawks, Thunderbirds, or Thundercats?
Well, we know what it is, don't we?
We do, yes. Thundercats.
Of course. Very well known.
It's always nice when a bit of Gerry Anderson stuff pops up in popular culture. So if you spot anything on TV, commercials or quiz shows, try and get a screenshot and send it in to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk or post it on our Facebook page. That'd be lovely.
It does pop up all the time, though, so that's really nice.
Yes.
I'm sure there was something on Pointless a few weeks ago, wasn't there, as well? We got tweeted, so...
Yeah, possibly.
It's always there.
Yeah.
Anyway, Richard, I've got some interesting interviews coming up in the next few weeks.
Oh, thank goodness.
After Pod 50, which is obviously it's all about us.
Well, yes.
You watch the listening figures dive right down.
I know.
Then obviously for Pod 53, hopefully we'll have some interview bits and pieces from the guests at the Fables of Anderson. But other interviews that I've got coming up include a couple of impressionists. Or impersonators,
really?
I don't know what the right word is. John Culshaw. Finally getting to speak to him, having trying to organise it for months. And Jake Dudman.
Now how will we know Jake Dudman?
Jake Dudman 5 years ago posted a video of him doing some Matt Smith impressions. 11th Doctor's speech on YouTube. In fact, so good that Matt Smith says that Jake Dudman does a better Matt Smith than he does.
Right.
And so Jake's gone on to do all sorts of stuff. He's in multiple series on Netflix, and he does a huge amount of Big Finish stuff. And
yes,
he's a lovely chap, and he's one of those who got into Thunderbirds in, I guess, the 2000s version because he's such a young'un. But a lovely chap, and I'm really looking forward to having a chat with him about why those old shows grabbed him.
I bet you are. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Lovely.
He also says that I give the best hugs. Oh,
right.
isn't that nice?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you never give me any.
Well, all right, fine. Fab Worlds, I will. Only then, though. Anyway, Richard, we're holding up listeners from their favourite bit of the podcast.
Oh, is it that
The
time?
end. No. And helping us hold up the end is Chris Dale.
All right, hang on. I'll just go to this handle on the wall. I'll just crank him down. Come on then, Chris.
Listen to those chains cracking. Okay, there he is. So now it's time. Now he's arrived. Chris Dale's bloomin' marvellous randomiser.
I never thought I'd have to say this, but you two have let me down badly.
Yeah, Marina? What do you mean he's mostly talking about me?
Yes, you, sir.
Oh, well, I can only assume you mean the fact that I've not yet gotten around to asking you to press the button on the randomiser.
Isn't it about time you learned?
Oh, absolutely more than time, but it's just that life has a habit of running away from me, you know? Sometimes it's very difficult.
Well, get over it.
Oh, okay, sorry. But look, I freely admit I'm not very good at organising things. I mean, if it's basic competency that you're looking for, well...
Where the hell are Oren and Romek?
Okay, steady on, I'm not that bad. Anyway, the important thing is that we're here now, and today you, Captain Podley, will get to operate the randomiser. What's that?
Sergeant Fredo, what system does that ship hail from?
I have no idea, Captain. I've never seen anything like it.
That doesn't look like a ship to me, actually, Captain. In fact, it looks rather like this week's episode. Unless I'm very much mistaken, that's Captain Scarlet and Captain Blue on Flight 104.
Well, what are you waiting for? Get after them.
Absolutely, yes, will do, but I'm afraid that means you won't be pressing the button today.
Well, as one would say, lovely.
Sorry. Just seeing that logo, instantly puts me in a good frame of mind because I know whatever is going to follow it is going to be something special. And here we are with the original Captain Scarlet. This is, the third Captain Scarlet we've had on the randomizer so far. And again, this is, much like the launching, this is an episode that I remember being a pretty good one that nobody really seems to talk about. So we're gonna talk about this today, though, and we're gonna see if we can. Sorry, I'm just admiring the HD quality of this walk down the alleyway now. You're picking out things that, even after all these years, I'd never noticed the words "Trader's Entrance" on the written on the wall in chalk until the Blu-rays. Wonderful Blu-rays.
One man fate has made indestructible. His name,
Captain Blu-ray. Lovely, jolly, reused Avalanche music here. Also, a rare character moment here, I think, between Scarlet and Blue.
Would you mind holding the Grand Opera a minute while I order lunch?
I also love that on the Fanderson Captain Scarlet soundtrack CD, which was out a few years ago, they actually included the recording of Ed Bishop singing in the shower.
What's on the menu?
Steak.
Great. I could eat a horse.
No chance of that here, I'm glad to say.
How's the doctor?
Unlike that other hotel that we stayed in that other country once. Dr. Conrad sleeping in the other room in his full sleeping suit and tie. He's not bothered getting into his jammies or casuals at all.
Well, whoever they are, they move pretty fast when you try to get a photograph in the lobby.
Right. That big blonde guy knocked the camera clean out of my hand.
This is a slightly unusual element to this story in that we don't have Scarlet and Blue and whoever versus Mr. On Agents. We have Scarlet and Blue and the guy they're protecting, and these two, this reporter and photographer who are just interested in what they're doing, and sort of fill the same role of being the antagonist, but they're not actually evil or anything. They're just after the story. They want to know what's going on. And they go to slightly bizarre lengths to get it, including dressing up as a waiter.
Someone's outside the doctor's door.
I'll check it out.
Because, of course, Scarlet and Blue have taken a connecting room next to Dr. Conrad's. Everything okay in Dr. Conrad's room? He's flopped footage now. His left to right is now right to left, and he's still wearing his full suit.
Probably our food.
SIG.
Could you bring me some mustard?
Something that kind of distracts me through this period of Captain Scarlet, and I think this episode has it more than any other, is the multiple heads that Scarlet has.
Took a couple of shots of me.
Right now he's got that 5 o'clock shadow head, but in the very previous shot he had that absolutely clean-shaven head. And yet before that,
I've got 2 full face and 1 nice profile.
He had the clean-shaven head again. And he goes back and forth throughout this episode, seemingly every other shot. I don't know why.
They haven't. We'll have to be even more careful en route to Lake Toma.
I know they might have been filming scenes from multiple episodes simultaneously. But I just don't see why they keep changing his head throughout this episode. It does get a bit distracting by the end.
Right. Are you trying to be funny?
Believe me.
So the reporter's taken a photo of Scarlet, and instead of producing a photo, it just produces a black outline, or a solid black shape of Scarlet's body.
It's stranger every minute.
It's nice that they remembered that mistrons are impervious to X-rays, which might also mean that photos don't pick them out too well either. However, it does look a bit like a sort of cartoon time. Scarlet's just kind of crashed through the wall and left a great big hole in it, but...
The conference at Lake Toma will be sabotaged. We know what you are trying to do.
And I think this conference somehow fits into a few things that were hinted at later on in the series of an attempted return to Mars, and it was never explicitly tied together, but you can kind of link this conference with, I think later on, Noose of Ice. They're talking about building rockets for a new fleet of ships that are going to Mars. And this conference is where they're planning that return to Mars.
They are meeting to decide the method and purpose of Earth's return to Mars and the Mistrons.
Yeah, I like that, because it's... Scarlet started off as a really continuity-heavy series. The first 2 episodes are linked. The Operation Time, Spectrum Strikes Back are obviously linked.
Captain Magenta, Captain J, Captain Oka.
The Lunarville trilogy, it's all linked. By this point in the series, they've kind of abandoned that. So it's nice to get that little...
We'll leave at once, Colonel.
Little nod to continuity past and potentially, if the series had gone on, maybe future with the...
I'm not too concerned about the Doctor.
The thought of a return to Mars in this series, very, very tantalising, very appealing.
Will we be travelling on a normal scheduled flight?
Yes, but with one difference. We bought every seat in different names.
Just for the fun of it. We're just being crazy today, Dr. Conrad.
If we wore uniforms or used Spectrum transportation, it would only arouse suspicion.
This way we get all the in-flight lunches all to ourselves. Oh no, that you actually wouldn't want that, would you, knowing airline food?
Looks like they're heading for the airport.
Those 2 pressmen are still in sight.
And this is an unusual shot as well of... Usually, when you see puppets in cars in the Century 21 era, you don't see the strings because they're being operated from below. This saloon that Scarlet and Blue and Dr. Conrad are travelling in, it's not a Spectrum saloon, it's just an open-top car, so the wires are poking out the top. But the reporters are following in their car, and the roof of their car is just like the top of the door frame, and the puppet's wires are still poking out the top, whereas I think by Joe 90... it was more or less every single shot of a puppet in a car was operated from below. I'm just becoming more and more observant of those things with Blu-ray, I think.
Won't the crew question all the empty seats?
This is the slack season. The flights are quite often 3/4 empty.
Uh-huh.
The plane was full right up.
Full? At this time of year?
It's the slack season. Everybody knows this. It's an established fact.
Last-minute cancellations.
And here comes the man himself, Captain Black.
I was also hoping for a seat on the plane.
Yeah, back in the days where you could just wander into the wander through doors marked aircrew only. Nobody's stopping Captain Black. Because after all, this is the slack season.
Well, we'd better be going.
Yeah, with 15 minutes to the takeoff, you'd better actually, you better consider getting on the plane before it leaves.
Two met here. They say they must get on flight 104. Probably the two pressmen.
Oh, a nice pan of the Novena Airport here. That looks to me in the background like we might just be seeing the Director General's plane from Winged Assassin. The one that got blown up. Or something similar, at least. Maybe it's a stunt double. And this plane of Flight 104 itself, I think, was reused a few times in Joe 90, possibly. It might even have just been stock footage, but I'm sure it had something of an afterlife beyond this episode. And going back to the basic sort of premise of this episode, while Captain Black is watching the plane take off through his binoculars, the Mysterons threatened to sabotage the conference. Well, their plan through this episode is essentially to kill Dr. Conrad, which might put a hole in the conference, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily going to sabotage the whole conference. It just feels like with this episode there's a setup for, while Scarlet and Blue are away protecting this scientist, there's the setup for an episode involving Ochre, Grey and Magenta thwarting a Mysteron plot for once. I know Grey doesn't speak at this point and Magenta wouldn't be much use. But yeah, it's I'd love to see what those three were actually doing during the course of this episode. I mean, I don't know, I shudder to think what they would be doing, to be honest.
The pilot has regained consciousness, but we can't get much sense out of him. Keeps mumbling something about a strange man.
Has he given you a description?
But Captain Magenta is in Lake Toma.
Yeah, pallid complexion, dressed all in black.
All in black?
Could it be Captain Black, Colonel?
No, I don't think so. Well, could be Captain Black.
Well, you certainly get around for a waiter.
I can explain that.
It's all right, don't worry about it.
I do genuinely like as well with this how Scarlet and Blue are like, yeah, you guys are okay.
There's no
you're no problem.
Empty? That's very strange.
Right now, he doesn't have his 5 o'clock shadow. We'll see how long that lasts.
Without their spectrum caps, we can't call up Captain Scarlet or Captain Blue on spectrum wave bands. We'll have to find another way to contact them.
That is a bit of a sort of...
Immediate launch.
I don't know, it makes it a bit convenient that you can't contact them. You can't imagine two agents being sent on a mission like this without a small communicator. It doesn't have to be their hats. And there's that odd moment where, I think it's exclusive to this episode, where Angel 1 launches and the model moves about an inch, and then we suddenly cut to the end of the runway and it's gone. Yeah, Angels 2 and 3 are well off, they're well underway. Although I'm not too keen on this shot where Angels 2 and 3 rise to join Angel 1 and they sort of wobble upwards and kind of point down a bit.
We pinpoint Captain Scarlet's position, order the Angels onto an interceptor course. And make this a red alert, Lieutenant. I have a feeling time is running out.
You always have a feeling time is running out. That's one of your catchphrases.
Do you think everything's all right?
Just sit down and use your safety belt. Why didn't the pilot warn us?
And again, I'm not too sure how realistic it is that you would get on a plane with no stewards or stewardesses at all, hear nothing from the pilot and think, this is okay.
Proceed at speed ultimate.
Speed ultimate, oh, I love that.
SIG, Lieutenant.
It's super duper ultra fast speed. It's ludicrous speed. Off we go. Oh, this is a slightly lower res shot than the others around it, probably because it's flopped. You can see the S's are the wrong way round. Oh, and again there's a close-up on one interceptor and the S's are the wrong way round.
Have made a reconnaissance sweep and established that the pilot's cabin is empty.
I find that so irritating, flopped shots. I don't know why, but it's just like... I know you sometimes have to do it on the show, but in merchandising and things like that, it always bugs me. Especially when there's something like the S, which is a dead giveaway. And again, there it is the wrong way round.
Captain Scarlet and Captain Blue have taken the controls, but the jet is not responding.
Thank you, Destiny. That was a fine impression of Rhapsody. Not sure what happened there.
We've got to pull her up.
Again, I find that very odd in these shows when one character opens their mouth and another person's voice comes out. I know they kind of have to go with what's already been recorded. I just don't understand how those errors kept cropping up so frequently in these shows.
The airliner is still not responding, Colonel White.
Would you like me to do my Harmony impression?
Captain Scarlet, Dr. Conrad's life is in your hands.
And also Captain Blue is there as well. Captain Blue doesn't always get enough credit when he's out with Scarlet. It's always, oh, Captain Scarlet, it's up to you. Ignoring the blonde guy who's right there with him. So now Flight 104 is flying very low over the mountains, which I guess is the Mr. On plan to just crash the plane into the mountains.
Keep trying.
We're going to crash. I know it.
See, you would expect if the plan was to sabotage the conference, they might crash the plane onto the conference.
We've got to pull it out of this dive.
This all seems a bit low-key for a Mr. On plot, just targeting one guy. But maybe he's a very important guy, you know. Sleeps in a suit, so he must be unique on more levels than that.
Controls are easy.
It must have been that power station. The high voltage must have cancelled out the Mr. On power over the aircraft.
And then, again, that's a nice little bit of continuity. You'd expect maybe Spectrum agents to start carrying, I don't know, small electrical, like tasers or something. Just a car that's being taken over by the Mr. On. Zap. Oh, thank you. We'll have that back.
Maintain visual contact.
Lower the undercarriage.
SIG. No response. A stray bullet must have broken the electrical circuit when I shot through the lock.
Oh, you dingbat.
I'm taking her down. Get everyone to the rear of the plane and you stay with them, Captain Blue.
But, Captain...
No, this is my job. Now get moving.
Oh, if only there was some kind of organisation that was set up to deal with things like this. When... if a plane had a problem with its undercarriage, you could call them and they'd bring out these... I don't know, these things for you to land on, but...
What is it, Destiny?
Oh, alas. We can only dream of such a world where such things exist.
I contact them on the aircraft's frequency. Captain Scarlet has not lowered the landing wheels.
You heard that, Lieutenant?
Yes, Colonel.
Warn Geneva Airport to stand by for an emergency
Just
landing.
checking, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir. Stand by for crash landing. This is an emergency.
And an emergency requires... stock footage of ambulances and fire engines from Thunderbirds, specifically those vehicles at London Airport. I guess someone in the editing room must have even sort of remembered, oh yeah, undercarriage problem, Thunderbirds, London Airport. We'll just use that shot, it's quick. Although it does highlight, I think, the difference in design in the guest vehicles between Thunderbirds and Scarlet. The Thunderbirds ones tended to be more rounded, but at times seemed kind of lumpier, whereas in Scarlet, everything seemed sleeker and sort of more angled. I think I generally prefer the Century 21 design aesthetic, even though I know it was largely the same people working on it. I'm more drawn to these shows on multiple levels in the Century 21 era rather than earlier, I think.
He's all right.
How do you know?
I just know. Take my word for it.
That's a nice way to get out of it. He's fine.
Well, if you're
And
right...
his body's been scissored in half. He's fine.
What a story. Say, what's the name of the guy at the control?
What did you think was going down to start with?
And doing a job. A great job.
Oh, poor old Scarlet. Yeah, he's dead. But what exactly did the reporters think this story could potentially have been? A scientist books a room at a hotel. 2 guys are with him. He has a nap. What did they think they were really onto with this? I'm not sure. Anyway, that was Flight 104. Yeah, I still really like that one. It's a nice change of pace. Oh, I'm just looking at the HD transfer again. I've never noticed the black patterning around the neck on the Cobra in that painting. Oh, love the Blu-rays. Yeah, another very enjoyable episode of Captain Scarlet. I can see why it doesn't sort of get mentioned in the same breath as some of the greats, because there's not too much there's not too much here that's spectacular or anything. It is quite low-key. I mean, the threat is low-key, and Spectrum's response to it is fairly low-key. We don't even know what happens with the conference at the end. Presumably, Ochre, Grey and Magenta protected it as well as they were able to. I still quite enjoyed this. It's got its problems, but not enough to make me stop loving it.
Well,
I love a bit of Captain Scarlet.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, and an underrated episode, as Chris said, Flight 104. Do you know we referenced Flight 104 in the Terrahawks audio series?
Really?
Yeah, I think it was in A Clone of My Own.
That's not one of Chris's own, is it?
No, that was series 1. Flight 104, where one of Nystein's clones has an unfortunate accident, shall we say.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
Just, maintaining a bit of continuity through the Gerry Anderson universe, even though they're in different universes anyway. Captain Scarlet and Terrahawks. But there we go. Good bit of fun. Thank you, Chris, for another marvellous one.
Always good, yes, absolutely. Always a pleasure to have him.
And always good.
And of course, you'll be able to see him live. I think he has now confirmed, doesn't he, Jamie, via email, that he will be doing a live randomiser for the podcast on Saturday, 15th of June at the Fab Worlds of Anderson in Leicester.
Well, there's a scary thought, isn't there?
Yeah,
a live randomiser.
Yeah, be fun.
Let's hope he doesn't get anything wrong. Well, no, I was going to say, let's hope he doesn't get Joe 90.
Oh, Jamie,
I might have to go for a pee if that happens. Right. So that's it, Richard, isn't it? For pretty much for another podcast for our 49th.
I know. That's
next
it.
week is
next
our,
week for the big
our
one.
golden week anniversary.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's nice, isn't it? Should we have a glass of fizz on the go next time?
Lemonade.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, just checking.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Okay, fine. And they can hear the bubbles by the mic, hopefully. You get a real sense of celebration that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be nice.
And I'm sure Terry will be full of it.
Oh, yes, I'm sure he will.
Yeah. And by which I mean
if past performances are ready to go by.
And celebratory
Oh, I see, yes,
stuff.
That's right.
So, yes, if you want to send us a question, a comment, a thought, or anything else, then do email it to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Tweet us, #GerryAndersonPodcast. I'm not going to say our Twitter names because it always sounds so weird.
Okay.
Well, you know. And yes, just keep listening and sharing and subscribing. And if you haven't by now written us a review, come on. Make it a 50th birthday present for us.
Oh,
that you'll and for Richard, that you'll write us a review. That would be great.
That'd be nice.
Thanks.
Yeah. And we'll see you for the Big 5-0.
Yeah. Well, no, we'll see them for the Big 5-3.
Oh, you always complicate it. It's like you always have to have the last word on these things, don't you?
No.
I thought that was a nice little clean out there.
Fine. All right. Go on, repeat it, and then we'll stop.
We'll see you at the Big 5-3.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
So what are you wearing?
You stole my line. Oh, I've got a Space 1999 t-shirt on.
Ah. Have you got any costumes or anything from any old series?
What would I have?
I don't know. Have you got Matthew's little tunic or anything that you might be able to wear to Leicester?
Matthew's tunic?
Secret Service. Did he wear that nice little kind of natty little thing?
Gardener's outfit?
Yeah, that's the one. Why don't you go in a gardener's outfit to the Fab Worlds?
And wear a boiler suit type of thing.
Yes.
A boiler suit was most of the costumes in Space Precinct, I would say.
It really was. I think it was just the one boiler suit that was passed around amongst
Ray
the extras.
Winston wore one, didn't he?
He did.
Ray
Winston. That is amazing. Do you know, I tell this story in the book, but you know, he said to Will Barton, who was one of our aliens, he said, I can't get work for anything. I'm driving a cab now. Ray Winston.
Amazing.
Driving a cab for a living.
Amazing how people's fortunes change.
Yeah, well, you know, still waiting, Jamie. Still waiting.
I was going to say, would you imagine?
I can drive a cab.
When they said, Richard, in 25 years' time, you're going to be doing a weekly podcast.
I would say, please let me drive a cab for a living.
Too late, you're trapped now. You also would have said, what's a podcast? Because they didn't exist in 1994. So, or 5.
Yes, quite true, yes. But then if someone had said that, that would probably intimate that they'd come back from the future to tell me that.
Yeah.
So actually, I'd probably be more aghast that they'd come back from the future than I would be confused about something called a podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, fine. Well, maybe that's what the cyborg was actually trying to do in Time to Kill.
Right.
Actually,
What,
to come
warn
back
me?
to tell you about podcasts.
That's a whole new reading of that episode. I'm going to watch it again now in that light.
Yeah, watch it and you'll see it fits perfectly.
Thanks.
Right. It's definitely time to go now, isn't it?
Have a good day.
And you. Bye.
Bye.